Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest hails all the way from Canada. So I believe he's my first Canadian guest ever. That's right. Yes. So yeah, we're really charting out all of the world as we go with all of these podcasts. And I'm happy to say that Christopher James, our guest today, is also a fellow podcaster, and he sort of recently got into this in, I would say, in the last couple of months or so. You've actually amassed quite a few episodes in that time.
Yeah.
So I feel that I can very much kind of relate to you on this, because we're closing in on 40 episodes with the podcast so far for myself. But, you know, it's not so much about quantity, it's always about quality and like, you know, finding people, finding the right topics, so on and so forth. But what I really want to know before we sort of get into anything else is, hello and welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, I just came back from shopping, so kind of sweaty because it's actually kind of warm today for almost winter.
In Canada? Is that even possible?
Surprisingly, yes. It's if I check the degrees on my phone real quick, it is, oh god, that's not degrees, that's Instagram. It is currently 18 degrees Celsius.
Oh, you guys use Celsius too. Oh, you're normal.
Or
I'm happy
we
with
use
that.
Celsius in weather, yeah. We're normal, yeah. Because Fahrenheit doesn't make any sense. I mean, we use Fahrenheit when like measuring temperature, we have Fahrenheit. But weather, it's like Celsius. That's
yeah, oh, right, yeah. Know. Right. That makes actually way more sense than, well, yeah, hang on, that's what we do as well. What am I talking about? Yeah, that makes sense. That is the way everyone else should do it. This whole, it's 90.
America, it's like 72 degrees Fahrenheit today. It's like 72 degrees. Imagine that's Celsius. 72 degrees Celsius. Holy crap.
That's death. That's
like
Dubai.
Scorching. That's death.
I hear Dubai can get up to about 50 or 60 apparently degrees Celsius.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, it's the sort of weather, from what I've heard from people I know that have lived there, is that when it gets that hot, you can't go outside. You physically can't. You have to like stay inside and kind of wait until the temperature drops to a kind of safe amount, which is just nuts to me.
And I feel like if it ever gets like 50 degrees Celsius in Canada, nobody would be going out. It's either you're inside with air conditioning on and just staying cool, or basically that's it. Because I feel like if you have a pool, the water will start to get hot, and that's not good in the summer. But it's not the summer now. It's like fall, almost winter at this point, and it's 18 degrees.
I was saying, because it's surprising to me, because I think Canada is always generally known for like the amount of snow that you have and that kind of weather. So it's interesting to hear, obviously, the reverse, and it does make sense because obviously, you know, with America, it's such a massive continent, but Canada is a pretty sort of large.
America's a country.
As well.
America's a country. The continent is North America.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
it's a country and a continent.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, if like in my head, I'm thinking of North America when I say
North America would be
the whole of America. Obviously, takes into account North and South. Yeah. But it's just interesting to me to hear that kind of contrast in the summer versus the winter and so on. Because obviously in the UK we do have quite a hot summer, but it's typically it's always kind of been like certain periods, and the rest of the time it's either really rainy or it's kind of muggy. Probably the best way I could put it. But yeah. Anyway,
our summers, I think, like Canada's summers, I think are slowly starting to get hotter and hotter each year. Yeah. And I think the most we've ever hit is like either like 30 or I think we've hit 30 plus Celsius at one point. I don't remember much because summers are nice. They're like hot to the point that you're sweating, but it's nice because it's mostly cold.
It's the same. It's the same in the UK. The weather's, I'd say, in the last 15 years has changed dramatically, and it's kind of nice on one hand, but also very worrying on the other. It's like, okay, this is great, but what about in 30 years? You know what I mean? It's going to get really bad. It's already bad, but yeah. Anyway, I just want to keep this on Canada for the time being. Given the news that we've literally just got now, obviously in America, they've just sort of decided on their presidential elects. It's
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden, finally got Trump out.
Took 4 days, but
I know
finally got somewhere.
it's kind of crazy how long it took, but I suppose it's one of those situations where you do want to be sure. When you've got a guy like Donald Trump in office, you want to make sure you know there's no sort of going back, and it does seem like there's an overwhelming kind of majority. But focusing it on yourself and the
Yep.
sort of Canadian perspective, I wanted to ask sort of what your thoughts on it were, because obviously you've got a very different government in place, and it seems a lot more, I would say maybe liberal, maybe is the right word to use. There's various things that have been passed over the years in Canada that suggest a very different way of living and almost a kind of idyllic way of living. So, for example, some of the things that I know have been passed in Canada in the last, let's say, 5-10 years include marijuana usage, I believe, and also I believe you have a law now for gender. So, if someone identifies within sort of like a third gender, I don't know how you put it, category, should we say?
Yeah, I guess.
Then people have to kind of respect that, and if they don't, there's issues with that. So it's kind of a thing that kind of protects people and backs them up from the law. And I believe Canada's the first nation to actually do that. I haven't heard of anywhere else in the world that's actually done that. Could be wrong on that, but that's what I've heard.
I mean, I don't know if you're wrong. I don't know if you're right. I don't really follow up with that stuff. It sounds right, though. Sounds right. I don't know if it... I think so.
Okay. Well, then bringing it back to the presidential kind of area, how does it sort of compare living in Canada and your perspective on everything that's going on in America versus sort of living and being in Canada?
I mean, let's be honest. Like my family, we follow along with more American news than Canadian news because nothing really happens here that's like interesting. I mean, I love Canada, but American news is much more interesting than Canadian news because with this entire election going on. I'm not kidding because it does affect us in some way because then if anything happens, then we have to do something about it because we're technically allies with America. If we're doing like World War stuff, then Canada and US for I don't know my history that well, but still, I don't really have many opinions on like politics and stuff in America because I don't really like getting into politics that much because I feel like you can have more of like a really controversial and almost endless conversation about it with somebody who does. Because let's say I knew a lot about politics. I don't know that much. And if I'm having a discussion with somebody who has a lot of knowledge about politics, holy crap, is that going to be like most controversial and just heated discussion ever.
I know what you mean.
You have those topics that like aren't interesting to discuss, but can like get heated fast and like everybody's opinions get shared. And
well, I mean, I think this is the kind of thing behind discussions in general, because I know where you're coming from. Like, obviously, I have issues that I'm passionate about, but over the years, as I've gotten older, the thing that I like to do more and more is understand other people's perspectives, and particularly people whose thoughts and ideas kind of contrast with my own, because you never know what you might learn. And also, I find a lot of the time you can be proven wrong with things, typically facts, figures, or even just general beliefs and stuff. So if you keep like an open mind to things, you can kind of continuously learn and stuff, even from people that you disagree with. But I think a lot of the time, as you say, when you get into like discussions with people, particularly politically focused people, they get really impassioned and stuck to their political leaning, and they won't budge. They just see it as like, I have to win this. I have to win this. And I think that's the problem, because then you can't have a discussion with that person because they're just not open-minded. They're too,
they're too like focused on this one thing that they want. And it's like, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm focused on this. I'm not talking about anything else. And that's just, let's get it on. I'm happy Biden won, even though it's like, I'm like, if I was American in that sense, I think I would have voted for him. I don't know. I don't like thinking about if I was American. I like being Canadian. I like Canada a lot better than America, let's be honest. But
I gotta say, like, I have a very love-hate relationship with Americans. I got a lot of American friends. I've also got people I know who are American that I don't like. So I'm very, Do you know what I mean? I think I just
Yeah.
put it down to just
Just
people in
like with
general.
this entire election, that because I expected to wake up Wednesday morning, I
Mhm.
think it was like the following day, like on my way to get ready to go to work and go on like Google and check to see who won.
Yep.
And I expected it so much, like, okay, probably like one of them's gonna win. We know
Mhm.
that much. And we all thought it was gonna be Trump because back in when it was 2016, first him versus Hillary Clinton, we all thought like Hillary was gonna win, and then Trump just swooped it all up somehow, and we all expected like, oh, he's gonna win this, like, crap. Try not to like swear so much, and we all thought he was gonna win, and then waking up next day, no winner's been announced because nobody reached 270 votes yet, and then to the point that he declared himself a winner on election night and told him
Yeah.
stop counting the votes. But here's the thing: if they would have stopped counting the votes at that time, he would have still lost because he would have still been behind Biden. Because Biden still
Yeah.
had more votes than him. And Biden was at 253 for 3 days, I think. 4 days at this point. And then today, like, I'm on my way going home, and my mom says, like, he gets a call from my brother, and he says, like, oh, Biden picked up a state. And he either needed Arizona or Nevada to win, or just Pennsylvania. And he was somehow leading in Pennsylvania, overtaking Trump. Thank God, somehow that happened. And said like, oh, he got 273 votes. He won. It's like, so he picked up Pennsylvania. Didn't even expect that at first, because if you're like keeping track with the electoral map and stuff, Trump was leading in Pennsylvania by a lot
Mhm.
at one point. And then slowly over time, it went down because they're counting the mail-in votes. And the mail-in votes, Biden favors more with, and I think he needs 60% of them to get Pennsylvania. I'm guessing he did because he just got declared president. And let's be honest, I'm glad to see the Oompa Loompa go because just I'm not kidding. Because we all call Trump like these weird nicknames. I call him an Oompa Loompa because his face is so orange. It's just why? It's just. But then now America's gonna go crazy and hectic because
Mhm.
there are people saying that if Biden wins, that like America's just gonna start killing other people because of it, and it's gonna go into like the entire civil war.
Yeah, this
Which
is the crazy thing about it, man. Like I'm
it's
kind
just
of blown away by because a lot. Okay, I'm not saying all Trump supporters are like this, but a
yeah,
lot of them are kind of racist or very closed-minded people, right?
yeah,
And it really blows my mind that a country that's founded on immigration is
is the most
so inherently racist. And don't get me
yeah,
wrong, you've got groups like the KKK and shit like that there, and it's
yeah,
historically been, those kind of groups have always been in existence.
yeah,
But it just blows my mind to the extent. Do you know what I mean? Like Trump had a massive following and still does.
yeah,
And that to me is the biggest concern. Do you know what I mean? The fact that he was able to rally these people, so many of them, and they would blindly follow, like, and they would not kind of listen to any logic at all. And like I said to you before, they're not the sort of people that you can have a decent discussion with.
yeah,
They're, like you said, those sort of people that say things like, "Well, if Biden wins, we're going to shoot these people." What? Like, I know that a lot of people in America are very trigger happy, and obviously it's been very well documented how the problem with guns in that nation. But it's crazy to think like how easily people will mobilize when they just and react in that way when they're presented with something that they don't like. It's like I can understand, not being happy with a different party being in control of your country. Like for example, I'm not a massive politics guy, but I'm not a big fan of the Conservative Party in the UK, which is the current party running the UK right now. But with that being said, like the way I
okay,
see politics is every party has good and bad. It just tends to favor certain people in society. That's always how it's been, right?
yeah,
And I think the problem with Trump is that it's kind of like there's a lot of extremist ideals in that particular administration that he was pushing, and the delusions, the way he's reacting right now is kind of and like throughout his presidency has to me is just signified just how delusional and how scary it is to have a delusional leader running your country, like what that means for your people, for your nation. I mean, the very fact of in that first debate when, you know, he didn't come out and say it, but he pretty much sort of said like, hey guys, stand by, you know, wait for my orders sort of thing. You know, it's like fucked to hear that.
Yeah.
You know? Surreal.
I'm pretty sure like his staff and stuff are trying to coach him to try to move on because he doesn't want to. He's like, the truth is he's scared to lose. He doesn't want to lose. But truth of the matter is he tried getting states to recount their votes, and the Supreme Court, I think, denied it. Because as much as you're going to recount the votes, if it goes out to the same conclusion, he's just going to try to prolong this election, and that's why it took so long. Because he sued states for counting it, saying it's a fraud and whatever, and he's not going to leave. And I think they're now counting overseas votes right now, which I still think is going to probably favor Biden somehow. I'm not that sure. Let's be honest. But, like they're trying to work out, like trying to help him move on and just like go about your day, but he doesn't want to. That's the thing. He's so focused on like, I want to stay here. I want to win this second term, even though he hasn't. The facts are that they counted the votes. He tried prolonging it. He failed with that, but he doesn't want to accept it.
Yeah, that kind of blows my mind as well. Like, I mean, the guy, not many people in their life can say that they were president of a country. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even if there's a couple of things here, like one, being gracious in defeat. You know, it's never a bad thing to lose. If anything, it teaches you a lot in life. And, you know, it's still a major success. You ran a country for 4 years or close to 5 years. Do you know what I mean? It's okay. Yeah, sure. You're going to be judged on that, you know, against time. And a lot of people will say you were good for the country. A lot of people will say you're bad, but it doesn't matter how well you do. There are people that love and hate Obama still to this day. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you do. But I think with Trump, the kind of memory from this point onwards is always going to be like, the guy was delusional. The guy was crazed, acted like a child. And, you know, many of us around the world, like, in Canada, in the UK, in other European countries, we're all just kind of looking with like fascination at America right now. Like, I feel a lot of pity for people there because of what they have to deal with, especially under this administration. But I'm more kind of just entranced by this character of Donald Trump. Like I've said since the very beginning of his presidency, that I feel that it's like he thinks that he's still on a reality TV show. And like that's it was kind of funny at first, but then it kind of got scary after a while. It was like, no, this is worrying. This is like a very kind of clearly sick man.
Yeah.
And just like, obviously the worst part about that is the implications of what that means for the people of the US. Like you said, you know, you've got kind of two different groups. You know, you've got this kind of civil war situation going on. Like there's a lot of people I've heard that say that, you know, the BLM thing is not really about race. Like obviously it is, but like the real thing that the government has trying to push is a class kind of issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like even it's just been interesting, like the president's response to the BLM protests, and since the very beginning trying to say that it's, you know, really violent and it's all Antifa's doing, and it's like everyone that I've spoken to that's actually done protests and been there in person, you know, always says that the violence, if you like, is either coming from police that have too much power, or in some extreme cases, you know, just crazy Trump supporters. But even the Trump supporters were apparently like not that bad during those, you know, during those marches. It was more like when they're at their rallies that it's, you know, an issue.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you know, the other weird thing about like Trump's presidency, when they said he got the virus and then somehow he recovered. Like my parents were saying that. I'm pretty sure my parents, I think, said it's a hoax. It's not really just trying to get attention. Part of me kind of believes that, but it also could actually have happened. He is an old man, and he's kind of probably his state of mind. He doesn't like do social distancing and whatever, mask and stuff. He doesn't do that necessarily. So it could have happened. It could have not happened. I don't think it happened because of how fast he was able to recover. Because like, oh, they gave me this experimental drug and whatnot. Okay, if it worked for you, then try some other people. And if it works for them, then go ahead.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing, man. I still haven't really made my mind up about COVID-19 because I've had family members that have had it. You know, my nan and granddad caught it at one point. So obviously I was really scared at that point. They're in their 60s, but they kicked it fairly quickly. I'd say within a week or so. You know, and then I've known other people younger that have had it for much longer, you know.
Yeah.
Have had like hanging symptoms. So maybe they kicked the initial stages, but then they just feel like fatigue for like a month or something. So I think it's like a lot of the scientists say it's mutating, and that's the issue. That's why it's difficult to treat it, because
Yeah.
it mutates so quickly, and obviously every person's immune system is so different. So everyone will react to the virus in a different way.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Like, yeah, he's a very old man. Donald Trump is like in his 70s. It was the same for Boris Johnson, the leader of the UK. He got it as well.
Yeah.
And he kicked it fairly quickly too. And I'm not going to lie, the thought did cross my mind when both of them caught it. Like,
this could real.
Well, yeah, this could just be an attempt to, you know,
to just
curry favor
and stuff.
Yeah, curry favor, curry sympathy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you don't want to be cynical, but let's be honest, like politicians lie all the time, so it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think with Boris Johnson, it was a bit more obvious that he did get it because he was so dismissive of COVID-19 in the beginning. He was like shaking everyone's hands, being like, "Oh, this is a farce. This is ignore this. It's silly." And then fast forward a month later, and he's like, "Okay, we're in lockdown. It's serious." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of COVID-19, actually, I wanted to ask, how has COVID-19 affected Canada? How has it changed living in Canada? Or, you know, what's your personal experience with COVID-19 in Canada?
I don't have that much of like a personal experience. Like nobody that I've known has.
Okay.
I mean, I know people who have gotten it. Nobody in my family. I think I could be wrong. I don't remember much. In like the early months when this all started back in March when he started going to lockdown. Because I remember March 12th, like Thursday, March 12th, 2020. I remember the exact date because that was the last time I was ever in my high school.
Oh,
the last time I was ever in school. And the day after, actually, no, that same night, because I had to go in for like a meeting for my senior trip. That was going to happen in April. And the following night, around like 10 o'clock here, they said that the schools are shutting down. And then the next day, on Friday the 13th, spooky in March, yeah, whatever, they said schools are closing for 2 weeks. Sometime during that, they said it's closing until May. Around April, they said they're closing for the rest of the year. So at that point, our senior trip ended up getting canceled and having to like refund everything. Took a long time. I don't know if it's still going on. Probably is. But so I missed out on going to Central Europe, which is going to be not only my first time on a plane, my first time outside of Canada, because I've never been outside of Canada.
Wow.
Because I've only traveled, the most I traveled was going to Ontario.
Right, yeah.
And that's it. We were supposed to go to Nova Scotia this year by train.
Where are you based again, sorry?
Quebec.
Right, that makes sense, yeah.
So we were supposed to go to Nova Scotia by train. Ended up canceling it because of this entire pandemic. So, and us, the class of 2020, we never got our prom because that ended up getting canceled. It was then actually originally postponed to the 23rd of October. But before that, I think got canceled because it makes sense. And I'm actually kind of happy it was canceled. I think that sucks that we didn't get to have a prom, but it also makes sense. I'm happy it's canceled because how the hell are you going to do a high school prom during a pandemic?
Yeah.
If everybody's trying to like social distance and wear masks, you can like rent like a like decent sized room for the entire class or the entire grade, but you can only go to like a few spots in that section because if you're trying to still remain socially distanced and whatever, and it wasn't actually going to work. And I'm glad they canceled it. But one thing, we have our graduation, I think sometime in January. So it's also been postponed from the 25th of October now. And that I'm trying to still wonder how they're going to do. Because usually it's like you have the entire class in their cap and gown sitting together at that point, or
Yeah.
like next to each other. And now I'm trying to wonder, how are you going to do that while trying to remain socially distancing and wear masks and keeping safe? Which is going to be the hard part. And I hope they don't end up canceling it, because if they do, then we wouldn't have gotten a real graduation. We like us, we missed out on a lot of stuff. Like senior trips, we missed out on a paint fight. I know that much. I think we're gonna have a paint fight near the end of the year, because like that's like Sec 5 stuff. Like, and us in like Quebec, Canada, whatever, we don't say like grade 11, grade 12, whatever, because we say secondary, because it's secondary school.
Oh, you're like us. You're normal.
So we go from secondary 1 to secondary 5, which is grade 7 to grade 11. And that's it. We don't really have middle school here, because, I mean, we do have one, but I think that's the only one I know of, because it's kindergarten to grade 6, then Sec 1 to Sec 5, and then you're in CEGEP, which is college, and then university, whatever. And then I know in America they have grade 12, which is their last year of high school. Not kidding, another year in that high school that I went to. Don't get me wrong, I love my high school, but it's also kind of like a prison. Because
yeah,
it's fun, but whatever. And with this entire COVID situation, we had to like do online classes and like quickly adapt to that. And at this point, most of us have. I know there's some people that still aren't used to it, but I think I have gotten used to it because I'm doing it for college as well. So I don't mind it. I actually kind of like it because it's smart as well. But I know that some classes have to be done in person.
Yeah.
And if that comes to the case that next semester for me that I have to actually go in person to do some classes, I'm still gonna like be safe. I wear a mask the minute I go outside. Like when I'm walking to work, for example, there could be nobody on the sidewalk. I'm still wearing my mask. Like I know I can like take it off and like breathe whatever. I usually do it on my way home because I'm more exhausted, but I still wear my mask. I don't care. I'm not going to take it off, even if I am alone, because that's just my sense of mind.
Yeah.
And in Canada with this entire COVID thing, I think we've handled it well. Then again, we've had a bunch of news stuff in March and April and that stuff, and I was like following along with it at the time. But then again, we weren't in school. We were doing basically nothing. There was nothing to do. Not much, because all we can do is go out shopping because stores are open and because that's what we need, like groceries and stuff. That's like one of the few things we could have able to do because most things were closed. My dad was out of a job for a few months because he works at a restaurant and restaurants closed down.
Yeah.
And then they reopened and they closed down again.
So like right now, let's compare UK to Canada for 1 second on this basis. So like right now we've just re-entered a lockdown, but we had our initial lockdown from, let's say, March till sometime in early summer, I think. And then since then it's kind of been regional. There's been differences between areas and stuff in terms of lockdown rules, but for the most part it's been this thing of you have what we call, I think there's social bubbles or something like that, like groups that always hang around with each other but never mix with other groups, stuff like that. It's been very hazy. They've not really been very concrete with the instructions. And so for example, right now we're in lockdown, but you've got like schools open, universities open, blah blah
which
blah.
doesn't make any sense because you're in lockdown trying to keep everybody safe, but at the same time you want the children to like be educated. Just I understand sometimes you want schools open because it's not like the same like through a screen, and I understand that much. Like I would prefer, like always prefer going in school than like doing it online, because it's not the same. You're not getting the same interactions.
Yeah,
but
I agree. I agree.
Want to keep safe. Like if you like want to like have fewer cases and you want to keep everybody safe, I don't think you should open schools again. And if you do, just keep it safe. It's like either have them slowly adapt to online learning. Because I know what we're doing at my high school, my old high school. I think they have certain like groups going in on certain days, like students with last names from A to L, for example, and then M to this go on these days.
That's a sensible idea. That's a very sensible
And yeah,
idea.
like certain grades going on like certain days as well.
Yeah.
So you not the entire school is there at once, like usually it is.
Yeah, you
So you have
minimize the risk by always
yeah,
keeping the same group of people together.
and
Yeah.
they've gone, I think, over 20 days without a positive case there. Because at one point, it was like late September, and we got the news that somebody at my high school tested positive.
Yeah.
Shut everything down. Online learning.
Jeez.
I
Wow.
mean, and now they like back up and they have a board where we have like our message board. Like they go on 21, last time I saw 21 days without a positive case.
Oh my
Which,
God.
you know what? I'm happy, but like if anything happens, they know what to do.
Yeah.
We've
But
already adapted to online learning before. So it's
I
nothing new.
respect that kind of responsive nature that
Yeah.
you guys have going on. That's sensible to me. I mean, I think the problem in the UK has been, and this is the main sort of grievance that we have. Well, we have two main grievances with the government as far as their handling of the COVID-19 pandemic here in the UK, and it's mostly been, sort of unclear instructions that contradict other rules. And silly things like, okay, pubs can be open but they can only be open till 10, and then it changed to pubs can be open but only pubs that serve food, because somehow there's less of a risk if you're getting a meal, like just idiotic stuff like that.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like that just doesn't. I mean, okay, if you're at like a bar, yeah, we would call them bars, not pubs.
Yeah, same shit.
I mean, it's a nice way to say it. It's the same thing, but we call them bars. So you're going to a bar and the only one that serves food. Um, that food's being handled by someone. It's being
Yes.
made by somebody.
Yep.
So, and like I know they're trying to get safe, like they might be wearing gloves and whatever, but it's still being in a way handled by somebody else. So if you can still contract it from, I don't know if that's even possible. You can,
And
but
this is my perspective on this as
it
well.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
And
I think
why
it's,
keep like bars open that only serve food? That makes less sense than keeping bars open than like just only serving drinks. That's like I think only serving drinks would be in a way safer because you only have one person handling it. You don't have
that's
like multiple people like
That's a
there at the
very
same time.
solid point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't considered that before.
'Cause-
I think for the most part, you're always going to be at risk
Yeah,
during this situation. It's just like you said. There's always going to be. So, for example, if you have, restaurants open just for takeaways, you're always going to have people who are handling the food, this and that, the other. So you're never going to fully eliminate the risk. You're just minimizing it.
yeah,
So I think that I mean, obviously, I'm not a world leader or something, but I think if I was approaching this, my view would be, let's try to run things as much as we can, but in that kind of logical way where we're avoiding certain things as much as we can. So, for instance, I think you could even do, high school graduations, you could do sporting events, you could do wrestling events, but you have to do it at limited capacity. Like, for instance, the American wrestling company, All Elite Wrestling, as an example. Right?
no.
It's a new company they were
Okay.
established last year. Anyway, they've sort of reintroduced fans into the fold at this particular site they're operating from, but it's 10% capacity. So I think if the venue is, let's say, 4,000, you've probably got like 500, something. Yeah, very, very, very small handful, and there's like a big gap between all the people and stuff. But you've still got a presence there. You've got people enjoying it, putting money into it, right? But it's not the same spectacle that it was. But it's still running on some level. And like what you said about schools, operating in a way where it's like, okay, we've only got these people for these specific days. So we're still running the school. We're just running it in this limited capacity. Like, I think that's the approach we need to have moving forward. Like, that's why I personally disagree with the lockdown we currently have in the UK. Because it's like, you're just, pardon my language, fucking the businesses, not the big ones, but the independent ones. Like, for instance, like, your father's place, like with a restaurant or something, that's the people that get affected. Like, I do volunteering in the city centre where I live in Manchester in the UK. So I'm basically like driving around this city, you know, donating stuff to people, taking donations, blah, blah, blah. And the one thing that really struck me when I was looking, just as this new lockdown was introduced, was just the rows upon rows upon rows of just shut down shops that you just know are not going to be there in a couple of months' time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, the money always goes to the large company.
Yeah.
You know, it's always the same. It's like when we had the 2008 recession and the big banks were bailed out by the government. You know, the government only tends to care for certain industries and companies and so on. Like the middleman, the little man, it doesn't matter. It's like, you know, fend for yourself
like,
kind of deal.
For us with restaurants, because I know where my dad works, like the place, like his restaurant, there's only like a certain amount of people in the kitchen at the same time, so there's not many people, but you still have enough people to like do everything and like do takeout and whatever.
Yeah.
But you're still trying to keep your distance. There's like maybe 3-4 people max.
Yeah.
Like doing takeout, which is enough. So you're still like able to produce what you can do, but still trying to keep it safe. And like those small businesses, there's a small business that like are quaint and everybody knows, like everybody loves, it's just not going to be there because shut down and their money's, as you said, going to the big companies or whatever, and they're just not going to be there. You're going to lose out on stuff that is almost like, I want to say, iconic in some way.
Yeah. I mean, small business is always the backbone of any country, because at the end of the day, like, as much as people go on and on and on about big brands and stuff, you know, it's rare that you ever feel like, you know, a connection to like your local McDonald's or Starbucks or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like you feel.
I feel like some people do, but like,
yeah, don't get me wrong. That's why I didn't say all people, because I know people that are, you know, big fanatics about brands like Apple and stuff, and fine, whatever. But, you know, generally speaking, it's the small businesses that in your area that you kind of feel some affection for, you support, you like, you know, because it's different. It's something different from the norm. You know, a lot of the time the contrast is when you're dealing with, you know, those kind of franchise like businesses, you're going there because you know what to expect, and you know that you can get that in any location because it's the same setup, right?
Yeah.
But when it's a small time place, you know, maybe you go out of your way to go to that place, or maybe you've been going there, like, you know, for instance, there was a fish and chip shop that myself and my granddad used to go to when we were young, since I was a kid, and I think it's still there, and it's like a family kind of experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, you can't recreate it. You can try, you know, I've seen I remember Starbucks many years ago, they acquired some particular brand and they started to try to create that kind of hipster style coffee shops.
Oh God.
Right, but you could just see that there was no heart or soul in it. It was just that kind of that BS that they were trying to,
because you have those like small like family-esque diner type places that actually has like heart and soul put into it. Like it's an enjoyable environment at that point.
Yeah.
And then once those are gone, you're going to lose out on something that you've probably like been to many years or something, or just go every once in a while, but it's still enjoyable. And you're just gonna, that just goes away, and then it's like,
it's that atmosphere thing, isn't it? Like, I think it's difficult to be able to buy an atmosphere. Often, you know, you build that up over time, or maybe it's a particular location or something like that. But like, you know, I don't tend to feel that kind of feeling. If I walk into like a Starbucks or a Costa Coffee and I sit down and have a coffee, it doesn't feel that kind of friendly environment that I would get in, like,
because you can go to most places and find a Starbucks within like a few minutes.
Yeah. in some areas in London, it's like there'll be like 5 Costa Coffees in like within a 5-mile radius. It's ridiculous.
Like for us in Canada, we have something called Tim Hortons. I love Tim Hortons. First off, it's like Canadian staple.
There's a Tim Hortons here in Manchester, if you can believe that.
Oh my God, it's in UK.
Yeah, and it's
Ah,
limited
that's true.
capacity. It's weird. Manchester in the UK is a strange place because we have a lot of American brands that I have to this day never seen any, because I grew up in London and
Yeah.
I never saw a Tim Hortons or a Taco Bell or something like
Taco
that.
Bell.
But they actually have that here in
Yeah.
Manchester. Wow.
I mean, there's like at the same time, there's like a lot of American stuff that in
Right.
Quebec we don't have many of. Like, for example, Popeyes, like the fried chicken place.
Ah.
You can find those across America. We have one, I think, in Quebec. You like in Ontario, like you'll see like more of these like American brands like Arby's and Popeyes and whatever. But in Quebec here, we don't have a lot of them. I think we have like one Popeyes. I've never even seen it before.
This
I have
brings me on
no
to my
idea.
next question, actually. Like I know a fair bit about America, and I know I'd say like a reasonable amount about Canada, but
Yeah.
given that you're Canadian and you give a better perspective on this, what would you say are like the main differences between Canada and America? Let's just pretend that like we know nothing and you're trying to explain this to like an
Yeah.
alien or something. Like, well, how would you explain it?
I mean, there's a lot of differences between Canada and America. I mean, first off, I want to say the most obvious one, like carrying like a gun on you, because in
Right.
America, I think you're allowed to do that. This is allowed to
Yes.
have like a weapon on you. Like you can be in Walmart. I know that I'm pretty sure there's this picture. I
Yeah.
don't remember was this like a meme or something, but it's a picture of Post Malone at Walmart in America. This is a gun on him. You just
Yeah.
walk into like Walmart with a pistol on you, and just what? Like no, because we have to have like permits and stuff for that. We need to have like numbers, and we can't like just like bring it out in public, whatever. It's like for hunting.
Mm.
Like that's allowed, but just carrying it like willy nilly, just like all over, just like no. That's like I'm always like kind of in that mindset when if I ever decide to go to America, I just know there's gonna be people with weapons on them,
Yeah.
and it's gonna kind of make me like, a bit worrisome. It's just like at any point you can just like hear a gunshot and just like dead, and just kind of scary at the same time because I don't plan on ever going to America in the future. I mean, let's be honest.
I know I know how you feel. Like I went there 6 years ago, and it was an incredible experience. Don't get me wrong, but I grew up kind of wanting to live there. You know, I was kind of sold on the American dream, all that shit. And then when I
Mhm.
went there, I got to say, I that disappeared. I no longer wanted to live there anymore because
Yeah.
of many of things of what you said. Like I saw, you know, gangsters sitting in their car with a gun, and you know, drug addicts. And don't get me wrong, you get drug addicts in any country,
Yeah.
right? But like in America, you get massive areas, and when you talk to some of these people, you kind of find out how the systems actually work or don't work in some
Yeah.
cases. You know, a lot of the time, like homeless people out there, you know, they're not necessarily all drug addicts or all in really kind of messed up situations. A lot of them are kind of failed by the system. And it's very difficult to kind of get back on track once you've been failed by that system. But yeah, as far as like the safety issue is concerned, yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Like obviously
Yeah.
it does vary from state to state, but yeah, there is that thought in your mind at all times that you could just be shot randomly.
Yeah.
And
You
like,
can like go to America. You can be mugged
yeah,
in the middle of the night if you take like a nice stroll at night. And don't get me wrong, night strolls are peaceful.
mm,
Like they could be peaceful. Then like if you're in America, you can get mugged. You can just get shot and just you won't have any idea what to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure that can happen in most places.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it like always also going out at night. I mean, as much as it's like nice and calming, it's also kind of that fear of like something could happen.
I think the key issue, isn't it, is that like obviously in Canada, in the UK, in other countries, you have areas where that's more likely to happen. So you know, okay, this is a bad
Yeah.
area. I've really got to be on my guard here. But like
Yeah.
most of the time, you can walk down your local high street or local town at like 2 a.m. and you don't have to necessarily worry about getting murdered or
No, you
shot or
don't.
something like that, right? Um, Whereas in America, I mean, broad daylight, you could just,
Anything could happen.
so yeah, do you know what I mean? Like you're always at risk. And I think that's the kind of scary thing about it. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people living in the US who, you know, are free from danger and probably live very safe lives. But like,
Yeah.
I think like if you're in any of those major cities, there's always going to be a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
And like more so in the larger populated areas like New York City and maybe Atlanta, places like that. But yeah, that's a very solid point, you know, on the gun issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess when I asked the question, I was wondering more, you know, as far as culture is concerned, because like,
I think that's like
that's the thing.
like that point. Yeah,
there's a lot of things said about Canadians being like really nice, which I can concur. Every Canadian I've ever met, sweethearts. I don't know what it
for the
is.
most part. I mean, yeah, most of us are nice. I mean, I'm not gonna say that all of us are nice. You can have like the really like bitchy Canadian assholes at that point.
Okay.
Like, excuse my language, but like you can like have people are just rude as all hell.
Right.
And that's normal. That you can find them anywhere. But for the most part, most of us are like really nice. I'll say that much because I can be like going on like a bus on the STM, which is our like bus system.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll be on my way to like school. Because back then I remember I would do this almost every morning. There'd be multiple people waiting at a bus stop, and like, okay, it's like, yo, you go on. I can be there for like 5 minutes at a time. I'm pretty sure once I have, just like, go on. And it's like a Canadian standoff at that point, just like, no, you do it. No, you do it. Like, okay, no, it's like, you go on. It's like, I'll pay this time. But most of us, we can like go into an argument about being nice. I've apologized for apologizing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm saying sorry so much. Like, I'm sorry.
So the rumors are true.
But then you get into like the more like the prairies, as we call them, which is Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan.
Right.
Like those we call the prairies, and you'll hear a lot more slang,
yeah,
like a lot more Canadian slang, and you'll hear like more like sorry at that point.
Yeah,
I think also in like Newfoundland, you hear like sorry
as well.
You don't say like we don't say like a boot as like people say. It's if you're doing that and going to like the prairies, it's like more a boat.
About
like you're saying a boat, but like a boat. Yeah, I just say about because that's how I've always say it. But yeah, like it's also weird like the slang terms that we use because like most places have their own like specific slang terms that they use and they understand. Canadian slang terms for the most part doesn't make any sense. I'll be honest. Some are weird, and I don't use all of them. I use some because I'm in Quebec and some are in French, but for the most part, Canadian slang terms don't make sense sometimes. I think also like with like most places slang terms, if you hear them for the first time, you're not going to understand what they are.
Right.
Like I could probably give you some Canadian slang terms right now. You would have no idea what I'm talking about.
Probably not. No, because it's always like area specific, culture specific, so many other things that you have to take into account. Yeah. I just find it interesting because obviously in the United Kingdom we're also quite well known for our manners, but you know we're also known for being kind of cold and you know just difficult sometimes. But I think with Canadians, internationally speaking, a lot of people hear about how nice you guys are, how well mannered you are. Like as far as like negativity is concerned, the only thing I've ever heard about, and I said this briefly when I appeared on your upcoming podcast episode, that the whole thing about French speaking areas, like you said, you're from Quebec, which I think it's Montreal, Quebec, right?
Montreal, yeah.
So you say again?
Yeah. Montreal.
Oh, that's
like French.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to say in English how we would say it, we would not say Montreal. Because even though it's M-O-N and you say Montreal, I will cringe if anybody says Montreal. Because that's not how we say it. We say Montreal, like if there was a U instead.
Montreal.
It's like Montreal. And we say Quebec, because the Q you sound, we don't say quoi. I can't even like say it because Quebec doesn't even sound right to us.
You just
Quebec.
say Quebec. Quebec. Like
because there's also accents in these words and places, so we have to follow the accent.
But that's something I've heard is like certain areas in Canada where there's a big French population or French speaking population, and sometimes you get these issues of people maybe speaking French or not speaking French, and then there's that issue of like, well, why don't you speak French, or the reverse, why don't you speak English, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But that's literally all I've heard as far as bad is concerned about Canada.
I mean, yeah, because like the most you can like run into is somebody who's spoken French all like in Quebec. Because when you're like a grocery store in Quebec, and the cashiers, and I have to do this because I'm a cashier, so we have to say bonjour, hi, like any like even at restaurants, you have to start with French and then English. Like on menus and stuff in restaurants, you have like the French words would be bigger than the English words. That's just like kind of law. And we have to do French first, then English. It doesn't matter if they speak English, French. We have to say bonjour, hi. That's all we go. And I speak French like 90% of the time.
Yeah, I remember you saying this when we did that episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing we didn't press on, because I knew we were pressed on time in your podcast, but I wanted to ask about some of your experiences as a cashier, because anyone I meet who's worked in customer services always has some good stories.
I do have some interesting stories. And
what are some of your horror stories? Or like,
horror stories? Ooh,
crazy times.
I mean, let's be honest. I've only been working there for like just over a month.
Oh wow!
But I do have some stories. So, because my French isn't the greatest. Like I've always struggled in French as a subject, but I am slowly starting to get better. Because like it's like at the point they have the points card and whatever. Because you have to ask that and whatever, and numbers are also kind of confusing at the same time. But as a cashier, I've seen people just freak out because like it's like not the big ones, like the small ones. Like, oh, can you tell me how much this is? Like, and we just verify the price for them. It's like, oh, this is like $5.64, for example. Like, but over there it said something else. And like, I'm sorry, I scan it at this price and it tells me what it is. I'm not wrong. Then it's probably just put in the wrong place. I'm not just like leave it on the side, whatever. And so we have like areas below us, like near our like feet, that we can put stuff in, our overstock. And then when we have no customers, we go in the back and put them in like specific carts. They'll go in the fridge, freezer. And I've gone to the point that I had like 2 days ago, I got this Spanish woman as a customer. Like this like older lady, she spoke Spanish. He didn't know much French, didn't know much English, and I don't know much Spanish. So I spent 5 minutes trying to tell her how to pay with her credit card. And holy crap, I almost punched my cash. Like I almost just punched it because, and her bill ended up coming like double the size as it should be. It's just most of it just like error. It's like not being processed. Like, and so much that I even asked the cashier in front of me. It's like, do you speak any Spanish? No, I speak Italian. Help me anyway, because if you can't get a Spanish person to help you translate, get an Italian because it's not the same, but you have some words that are very similar. Mm-hmm. But like, if I'm talking like more horror story, I don't know. I mean, I saw someone try to steal something one time. But like that's not really many horror stories. We don't get like, I know like if in America you got like these like convenience stores being robbed at gunpoint. Never happened.
Well, yeah, I mean that's extreme.
I mean it could happen here. I'm not saying it won't. It's a possibility. And so it's in my mind. It's like, am I going to be robbed today? Can that happen?
My customer service experiences are always, to do with rudeness. Customers kind of going crazy, especially at times like Christmas. You'd think people were nice. Oh my God,
Christmas time. That's gonna be such a busy day, like busy like area. Because also it's weird. Thanksgiving is weird because we have our Thanksgiving in October.
Right. Yeah.
Not in November. America's like having it in November. Like why? Because what we know, it's either the first Monday I think of October for us, and I worked that day. I worked actually night that day, so I worked from like I think 2:30 to 9 o'clock. That day, and like
is that 2:30 in the afternoon till 9?
That's 2:30 in the afternoon to like 9 at night.
Oh, those are the worst shifts to do.
Like that's like my weekend because like I have like today and Sunday off, so I'm happy and I work throughout the week. But like when it comes to like weekends, I do like be put like late, like afternoon night shifts. And that's why it's just boring.
I remember
not that many customers and just I think that I can clean my cash like 3 times and no customer will show up.
Those to me are the worst shifts because
Yeah.
you lose everything. Like I remember when I worked in a supermarket when I was much younger. I think I was 18 at the time. It was like my first proper job, and I remember it was shift work. So obviously the morning shifts are better. Like if you do 7 till 4 or 6 3 or something, great, right? You can get out. You can still have some evening at least. But when
Yeah.
you do these shifts like 11 till 7 or 12 till 10 was the worst one for me because I had to commute to this store anyway. So I'd have to wake up at say 9:30 in the morning and, basically get my breakfast, start traveling to this place, arrive there around like, let's say 20 past 11, kill some time, maybe have some lunch, and then work the whole fucking day and leave when it's pitch black. And then I would always be late coming home, so I'd probably get home about 12 p.m. or something. And like thinking back, I'm just so grateful that I didn't have to do that anymore. But like I could always sympathize with people that do these sorts of shifts because you just lose it. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You've lost the morning.
I mean, you have like sometime during like the day and stuff. Like if you get up early enough, like you can like still be productive during the day before you leave for your shift.
Yeah, but like that's mental. Like I hear people that do like gym before a massive shift, and it's like, come on, man, you're just gonna be knackered.
I mean, like you're first off working out your body, and then you go into actual like work to earn money, and then you wake up, you can be like sore. But then like some people who like done this like bodybuilders, whatever, they've like gotten like used to like working out, whatever, and balancing that with their job. I'm pretty sure they've got that under control. But if I were to have an afternoon night shift, and in the morning I wake up early enough. Well, let's say for example 6 o'clock. I don't wake up that early usually for like an afternoon shift. I wake up like 11 because I like sleeping in. But if I would wake up early enough to okay, go on a walk, go on, like do exercise, whatever, I will be tired before I even start work.
Yeah.
And then I get to work, I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't want to be here. It's just like, okay, let's just get this over and done with. And then you have times where I will leave like 15 minutes before my shift starts because I walk to work. I can walk to work where I work.
Well, that's good. At least you're nearby.
But like it takes me like 10 minutes to walk at most and I walk fast for a person. For a person, I walk fast. That makes sense. But I will be like 50...
I walk.
Yeah. It's like because I'll leave like 15 minutes. Like I remember once I left 10 minutes before my shift, and I will walk fast enough that the legs of my bones, I felt them hurting. Really felt the bones of my legs hurting. And I get to work. I've never been late yet somehow. Like I'll always get there like a few minutes before my shift starts. I quickly go upstairs, put my stuff in my locker, put my gloves on, and my mask, whatever. I already have that on. And go to my supervisor, tell me, what cash am I at today? And I'd be like sweating, I'd be panting, just like, I walk here. It's like, shut up. It's like for like the first few, like maybe first hour, I'm still trying to recover from like walking and stuff. Not that I was like normal.
That, man. I've always had the mentality of like, I need to arrive early just so I can kind of sit, have a coffee, relax, and mentally prepare myself for the shit that I'm going to have to go through for the next however many hours. I can't imagine just turning up and then having to hold out until first break or something. Like, no, screw that. I mean, but each to their own.
Also, like the breaks. Like, having breaks, it depends on how long you work.
Yeah.
For us, like, if I would work, like, anywhere from a 5 to 5.5 hour shift, I would get 1 break. 6.5 hours, 2 breaks. 7 to 7.5 hours, which I've always worked before. Hell, kind of. 3 breaks. Not 4, 3. And I've actually once worked a 4-hour shift. And I'm questioning, why did you give me 4 hours?
That's because they don't have to give you a break.
Why?
I've worked those shifts as well. I remember very briefly.
I know, I got 1 break that day.
I went very briefly.
We'll still get breaks.
This company, it was like a clothing company, some American company, but we have them in the UK. And they would always make a point of giving you those 4-hour shifts or something like that. Because I think actually they either gave you 4-hour shifts or like 3-hour, 45-minute ones, because then they didn't have to give you a break. And I was like,
what's
you
point?
fuckers. Well, because then they would put you to work at the busiest time.
Like, okay, you're said from like and you know what time's like the busiest,
Yes.
like during like specific days. It's like not always busy around the same time every day. First like Saturday mornings are usually like, packed because like the weekend people are off, or like have free time to do their shopping. But then like, okay, you're gonna be put from this time to this time, only for like 4 hours. It's like the busiest shit ever, and you like never get any time. But somehow I always manage to get a break. I don't know how. I just get somebody telling me, "Okay, go on break now." It's like, thank God, and it's
Just
15 minutes of just relaxing.
Just in the right place at the right time. Yeah, I always kind of took issue with that, like 15-minute break. I don't think that's enough time to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it takes time to get there, and like if you've got a dickhead manager, they'll probably be like, "Oh, you know, you only have like 10 minutes left of your break." It's like, motherfucker, I just literally just sat down. Like,
just sat down. It's
get
like,
off my back for like 5
and
seconds.
look at your phone for like 1 minute, 5 minutes left. What the shit? And just, but I'm thankful that my supervisors are nice. And
Yeah.
I'm happy, but they also speak French most of the time. And Janice's like, I have to speak French now. Holy crap! Most part I understand it. It's just that whether they understand what I'm saying
Yeah.
is I speak like broken French. Yeah, like people speaking broken English. Like you get what they're saying, but it's not like grammatically correct. Like people will understand what I'm saying. I just don't say it correctly.
That's fine. I mean, as long as you're
I mean, as long as
understood,
you
I think that's the
understand
main
it,
thing. Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
should be fine.
Let's switch it up a little bit and bring it
Yeah.
back to your studies. Obviously, you mentioned you've just finished high school. So what, that puts you at like 17, 18, something like that?
I'm 17.
17, okay. So do you have plans for maybe university or some future education at this point? Like what's the deal? What's on the cards?
Ooh, okay. I mean, I was also like thinking about this like during my last year of high school, like when we were still in school, whether I was going to apply for college and like, is it right? Because I know some people just don't, like to like take some time off before doing it. But then it came to a point where I was too late to actually apply for daytime school, and my only option was to go to night school. So I'm in night school currently. It's okay. I mean, that's why I work mornings during the week, and my like supervisors know this, that I work mornings during the week because I have night school. So they know they can't like put me late on certain days. They can put me late on weekends because I don't have school. But during the week, I work like from like opening to like 2:30 on average. But my studies, I did apply for next semester. I'm just waiting to see if I got accepted because I haven't gotten that yet. I haven't decided on university yet. I think that's like I still need to think about that.
Okay.
I mean, I applied into like cinema and stuff and like the media. And I'll be honest, wasn't my first choice because I originally like wanted to go into languages and like do a translator stuff because the college I'm at, they have a language course. Actually, one of my friends is in that course. I was thinking, okay, that's not that bad, and I was actually really happy about it. And then I got my mark for French in term 2, failed, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that because I'm gonna have to take a French course. I know that much, and my French is absolutely garbage. And then it's just I got into like podcasting and whatever and editing my stuff and found that I kind of like it. I mean, it's simple what I do now, but I feel like I can improve on it, do it better, and I learn like how audio works and stuff like that, and editing and actually producing. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter how the quality is. It's not the quantity doesn't matter. It's the quality of it. Even if like you start out with the most like bare basic shit, like a laptop microphone and a laptop camera and microphone. Like if you start out with that, you're not gonna go out like. So when I started with my laptop and my microphone from my earbuds.
Yep.
That's what I was using. And then I ended up buying this snowball mic with I put googly eyes on it, and it just looks adorable. So that's my first microphone, and now it worked well. And hopefully, if I do get accepted into that course, I can learn more stuff than I already know. I have a slight advantage because I like edited videos before and like audio and stuff like that. So I have some knowledge, but
so okay, before we get into the podcasting,
yes.
So basically I guess what you're kind of saying is maybe you're getting into like audio production, maybe that's kind of what you're looking at. Maybe
Kinda,
is
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, at the same time, you're always like still figuring out what you want to do in life.
yeah,
Like
of
that's like
course, of course, of
high
course.
school and college. So and you can do like find the most like weird stuff that you might find. Like I never expected myself doing that, but you enjoy doing it.
But
And
basically, what we're saying is that you're looking for, as far as the education is concerned, stuff
yes.
that's going to help you with podcasting and video production, editing, that kind of stuff. So stuff that will kind of support that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
sensible. You're more sensible than I was at your age, so well done. All right.
I mean, I'm also like the youngest in my grade, so because what's weird, actually, I'm not the youngest. I'm the second youngest because I've somehow one of my friends is somehow 2 days younger than I am, and it's like, because I didn't even think there's anybody younger than I am, because where my birthday is, it's like the cutoff limit. Because when we got our report cards, it was always say like a line, age by September 30th, and you have their age. I am born on the 26th. Of 2003, which makes me, I'm a year ahead of myself.
Mm.
I should technically speaking be in my last year of high school right now, but I'm in my first year of college.
Ah, okay, that explains a
So
lot. Well, well done. That's
yeah,
an achievement. But yeah, no, nice one. I mean, I think if anything, you probably be well after everything that happens. I guess yeah, it makes sense to study now, and then maybe
yeah,
try and get that gap year and get that travel year in, and get those experiences in. Obviously, given where everything that's happening now, it probably makes more sense to study now and wait.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
for everything
not
to.
much else to do. You can like go out, get groceries, and
Yeah.
like walk, but not much.
All right, let's talk about your podcasting now.
Yes.
You've been doing this for a short. How long have you been doing this now,
Um,
roughly?
as of now, August, September. This would be about my third month doing it.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
in my
So
third month
yeah,
because I started in August. So
nice one, nice one.
yeah.
And why did you decide to start podcasting? What kind of led you to sort of decide to do that?
I mean, like a lot of things, there's like a bunch of things in my mind that like, oh, I should probably give it a shot and see what happens. Podcasting would be one of them, like starting podcast, and I'm like, sure, let's try it out. If it works out, it works out. If not, then I tried it, whatever. And then it's like, oh, I actually like it. Like it's actually nice, but because what I did before starting anything, I researched a bunch. Like for like a week or two, I did research on like audio, like recording stuff and like editing. So I came in with some knowledge. So I
Mm.
wasn't like just going in like I don't know what to do. I went in with some knowledge, and it's just overall fun to do at the same time because you can have a podcast about I want to say pretty much anything because you have sport podcasts and like gaming podcasts and music, whatever. And then the type of podcast that I run is just whatever comes to mind, I just talk about.
Mm.
And then, like those podcasts in specific, those are actually kind of fun because you can expect pretty much anything at that point.
I think it's better because I think that we've entered the game at a time when it's heavily oversaturated. Everyone and their mums are fucking doing podcasts right now. And that's the thing, like that's fine. It's fine to have a lot of people doing podcasts, but as you said, there's so many different areas. Like for instance, I look at like professional wrestling. I'm a big fan of professional wrestling, right? But I've seen so many podcasts, people setting up wrestling podcasts, and I'm like, I guess to a point where I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, what do you offer that's different? Because if it's just you sitting there talking about a particular topic that there's like 1,000 other people doing the exact same thing, you can't differentiate yourself. You can't make it any way
Yeah.
different. And like, I always think about that. Like, I always think about how can I make my podcast something that people want to come back and listen to,
Like how
every
can you make it
time.
like stand out from like the crowded like everything that's just common? Like you
Yeah.
want to make it unique in a way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I don't look at my podcast and go, oh, it's revolutionary. It's groundbreaking. Obviously it's not. But I do look at it like it is different. Like when people come here, they never know if they're going to get an interview or a topic only, or a discussion one with a friend of mine or something. Like I try to always model it on what I do with my YouTube channel, you know, always kind of have a variety. But the bigger thing that I guess I'm building is my own brand. So it's like when people come to it, they're coming to hear me talk about things, and because they're interested in that. And I know that sounds a bit egotistical, believe me, I don't have an ego, but that's kind of my business kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
That's my logic with it. But when I look at a lot of podcasts and people promoting their brands for their podcasts, there's nothing that entices me about, you know, clicking on that, because it's, do you know what I mean? It's not unique.
Yeah.
It's just someone kind of saying, oh, hey, here's another podcast about talking about the news or talking about this thing. And it's like, okay, great.
I'll be honest, if I want to like listen to the news, I'll listen to the news.
Right. I don't know. I just get that as an example.
There's nothing wrong with like I don't know, but like I'm pretty sure there is a podcast about news somewhere. I don't doubt that for a second. I'm pretty sure that exists.
Fuck the news then. Something about
exactly.
Like, critiquing something, like movie reviews or some shit.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with those podcasts. I mean, if they like doing it, they like doing it. I know there's like people who actually like it, but I know I don't have anything against them. It's just you have opportunities to make something unique and stand out from people. Where like you have like a bunch of sports podcasts, and like there's only so much you can do. Like that's why I didn't want to choose like a specific topic throughout my podcast.
And this is the thing as well. You're never gonna get anywhere with those type of podcasts. I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, because like I agree with you. I think, you know, if you like it, if you love it, do it. Fuck it, right? Don't worry about the critics. But the problem is, if you are doing something like that, like sports or something, you're never going to really become big unless one of three things happens. Either one, you're a noteworthy person. Sorry to say, but that's how most people work. Like, for instance, I'm building my brand up now. Most times when I post a video or a podcast or something, people don't give a fuck, because who the fuck am I? Who is this guy? I don't care, you know. And that's how people are with you until you become known. So that's a lot of the time when people are looking at podcast stuff to listen to. Who is this guy? Why should I care about him? Secondly, it's a thing of like, if we're taking sports as an example, you know, is this person actually an athlete? Were they ever an athlete? Were they an successful athlete? Why should I listen to their views and opinions on this particular thing? Like, what differentiates them from, you know, the several hundred other pundits out there? And then thirdly, it can come down to, you know, the format of what they've got. You know, is it someone who's just talking about what happened, which is fine, but, you know, I think a lot of the time, especially if you're someone, okay, you don't fit in those first two categories, you're not an athlete and you're not someone noteworthy or whatever, then you've got to look at, okay, I've got to either be very controversial and say stuff that other people won't say, or I've got to deliver some sort of a format that hasn't been done before, or a unique take on something that has been. And like that, I guess my point is, you're always trying to look for that niche in the market or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of those podcasts that are unlike ours, because like you said, you whenever you come up with an idea, that's what happens. Like, for instance, you were doing a Halloween special 3-parter thing. Yeah. So you had different guests talking about different things, Halloween centered. And that makes sense. It's like, it's a trending thing because Halloween happened at that time. So it makes sense to talk about that. Yeah. But the point is, you're always doing something different, and you're building up. As you build up over time, people will become familiar with you and will look forward to that, because it's like, okay, different topics, different things, but it's under this brand. But I just feel like that same logic doesn't really apply with those, you know, sports ones or wrestling podcasts or movie review podcasts or whatever the case may be. You have to kind of approach it differently, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's like some podcasts that I've been a guest on and that I've listened to that's like have different segments, like something just like anything can happen at the point. You can just say it's like a nice discussion type podcast. You can just have a discussion. It's fun. Like sometimes they have like games involved or it's like segments, and that's something I've tried to incorporate because my Halloween special part 1 of 2, I did Mad Libs for the first time on my podcast, and it worked out and didn't work out at the same time because I want to try to find Halloween stuff because I recorded them on Halloween. There wasn't many, so I'm like, let's just try to stay on the theme of it. And then I recorded on Discord for the first time and then couldn't share my screen. So a lot of complications happened. So I know next time if I want to do a Mad Lib segment, I'm going to use Zoom because at least I can share my screen and they can actually see it. Instead of me taking pictures of it and sending it on the Discord channel and then a lot. Because I will do a different topic almost every week. I've been really inconsistent lately that I need to like record more episodes and like I even tried thinking, okay, let me try to be in a mindset and pre-record. So I have episodes saved up so I don't have to worry about it every week. Because every week I record something like an episode a week and upload that same week. And that's all I do. And it's just something I've even thought of changing. That when it comes to the end of my first season, I'm doing like season thing.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say, and I've even said this, I'm going to say in that episode, when I record it, I cannot make any promises if it's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
Because I can change something. I can basically even rebrand at that point and change it to something else. I can redesign the logo. I can change out the format, add like different segments, whatever. So at that point, I cannot promise anything will stay the same. Because I've changed my intro before. My intro would consist of like an interesting fact about the topic I'll be discussing, which is like what I try to do, like be like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting, be kind of educational, and then kind of stop because at that point it's too much to like even process. Let's just keep it simple, keep it enjoyable. You don't have to do anything too super complicated. I don't do anything super complicated. I talk either alone or with somebody about a topic. That's it. You can have the most bare, basic, simple podcast and people will still enjoy it.
I know exactly what you mean. I have the exact same mentality because I never I had a podcast before this with a couple of friends and we tried to do the whole every week thing, and it was only once a week, but it was really stressful for some reason. So I know exactly where you're coming from on that issue. And I think with my podcast, I do it the same way that you do. Like when I have an idea, I'll do it. Or if I have a guest, and I'm always asking like, hey, who wants to appear on this? Do you have like ideas for topics? I'm always kind of putting stuff out there. But I kind of feel like if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, it's okay to take a bit of time and not put...
Yeah.
Because that's much better than setting yourself like, okay, I have to release an episode every week. And then it comes to the day and you're really anxious because you're like, you got nothing. And you're like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then you just put any old shit out. And it's like...
Yeah, that's me in a heartbeat. Like when I'm at work and I'm thinking, I need to record something when I get home. I need to do something.
Yeah.
And then I just remember that if I was, let's say I put myself in the shoes of a content creator on YouTube, like a YouTuber, and someone who like uploads consistently daily. If I have to take like a week off, I'll take a week off and and people will understand it. Like they'll be supportive. Like, okay, take the time you need. It's okay. And that's why I try to do. I remember I recording anything because then I feel like if I would go like 3 weeks or more, then I'd feel like I'd lose focus and just abandon it altogether. So at times I'll just go like a week or two without doing anything because I have stuff to balance. I'm kind of stressed about it. And then there are times that the damn video won't upload because it's just because sometimes it'll take hours to upload. Hours because my computer.
That's a software issue, my friend. I used to
have that's like software issues.
No, but like I used to have the same problem. I used to use Sony Vegas, which is notoriously bad and takes many hours. Then I got a tip off from a friend to use VideoPad, and I have to say, ever since I've been using that, it takes it's really short. I never have the issue of because I remember for a long time when I was doing Sony Vegas, I'd have that issue of trying to upload to YouTube and it would take hours, then it would just cancel or fail. And I've never had that with all the
Yeah.
video pads. Sorry, I've never had that issue. It's always been seamless, perfect. Even the larger ones.
And then you actually gave me the tip off of using it. So
yes, because I want to spread the word.
Yeah.
Like, people, make your life easier.
It's like,
No, but, I mean,
it's like, man, my video just won't upload. It's just use this.
I mean, that's a big point,
work.
isn't it? About being a podcaster or a content creator in general is it's a constant learning curve, and you're constantly learning things, constantly making mistakes. Like, I only really recently kind of figured out, like, okay, I should use Zoom for this. I should use this. I should use that. And I'm still figuring it out. Like, we might be close to 40 episodes in, but it's still very much developing and becoming its own thing. And my approach has always been to kind of just embrace what happens and just, you know what I mean? Like even this interview style that I have, it's always the same. I do my research on the person and I kind of ad lib a lot of stuff based on how the interview goes. And but the key thing I'm obviously always hoping for is that a discussion will come about and it will be longer. But it's okay if it's shorter as well. I think, you kind of got to like embrace it and work with the person that you're working with. You know what I mean? Like, it's your show, but it's up to you to guide it and steer it. But it's also very important to listen to your guest, kind of tap into their vibe and see, like, okay, they talk a lot, great, I'm going to let them talk and I'm just going to guide it. Or if they don't talk a lot, okay, I need to ask the right questions and I need to make them feel comfortable so that they're more willing to share information. But like these things, I think it's just time and practice, isn't it? When I first started doing vlogs, it was the same thing. I was terrible at vlogging. Now I just turn on the camera, start talking, it's done. Like I think it's just practice.
I mean, it goes for like a lot of things in life that you want, like these like side projects, these like mini projects that you like. It's my stuff. I want to try to like do this and accomplish it. It's like you're always going to run into these problems. You're always going to run into these kerfuffles and just something's not going to upload right away. I'm going to have to like do it late. It's all part of the process. It's an entire learning process at this point. And that actually goes for the same thing about life. Life is this entire like learning process with. You're going to run into like snags. You're going to like fail a bunch of times, but you learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And you start like, okay, it's this mistake again. What should I do differently? So you end up learning a lot from doing this episode. I've already learned a lot from editing and uploading, from doing this podcast. You learn a lot at the same time, because then I thought of, maybe I should start adding in like music at the same time. So I started slowly adding music, and then I added in this like little intro sequence I do at the beginning of my podcast now with music behind it. And slowly but surely you're going to like grow into something that you're eventually going to be proud of.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be like doubt in your mind, thinking like, should I even continue this? Like, is it going to go well? Is it going to be responded well? Should I continue it? Should I just scrap it and start over with something completely different? And that's
I know exactly how you feel. I always doubt everything I do, but I think that you have to just look at like and focus on how you feel. Like, for instance, I've had some hate comments here and there where people have been like, "Oh, shut the fuck up and let your guest speak." And I remember at first I was like, "Oh, fuck you," but then I kind of thought about it and I really went back to that particular episode. And I tried to think like, okay, maybe this is something I should keep in mind. But as far as like actually feedback is concerned, like, and where that relates to like if I continue doing something or not, I mean, for instance, I have stuff that I create that, doesn't get as many views or much attention, and it's relative to my channel. Like, I don't get a lot of views in general, but in terms of my channel, it's like, certain things get more, certain things get less.
Yeah.
And a lot of people base what they create on their view account or what people are saying. But I think it's better to focus on what you enjoy doing. And if you are loving doing the podcast or creating a particular type of content, you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. I love this. Yeah. Then that's the main thing to sort of keep in mind.
I mean, after a while, you are going to get feedback that is both good and bad.
Right.
And you're going to learn from it all. You're just going to say like, I'm still going to do it. It's my stuff. You can't like tell me what to do, and in a way they can't really like have control over what you do.
Precisely.
But it is good to like okay, take it in mind, as you said. Like I'm gonna keep this in mind and try to work on it. Since you always try to like work on your flaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. My I think my episode, like the most views, I think it's like 40 views I have on like the most views I ever got on an episode. And this is when you have like these small podcasts, it's like, yeah, they're small. Like that's what every channel is. You start off small, producing like a bit of content every so often, and then like you have this person, like somebody's like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna share it and like tell people about it, and then it grows into something big. And that's what I'm always wondering. If let's say you have this small podcast, it just turns into something huge.
Yeah.
Then if that ever happens to me, I'm gonna be in the mindset of like, holy crap, what am I going to do? Because your fan base is just people who appreciate what you do and understand if you need to take some time off and understand if you're having trouble with this. So, and they are going to understand changes in like not uploading for like a week or two at a time or like late uploads. So at the same time, you have this fan base, like this little group of people that understand and respect you and like want to like, okay, continue what you're doing. Like if you need to change something. We won't mind. Like they'll still listen in. I know I have one consistent listener. Actually, no, I have two consistent listeners that I know of.
Oh wow, well done.
I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people. I know people listen to it. I just don't know who listens to it.
Yeah.
I know my mom listens to every episode, and she likes every episode on Facebook. So, thank you.
That's the same issue I have. Like I have a regular viewership, but I don't know exactly who does.
Yeah.
And I have sent out, like for instance, one thing I've stopped doing because it never gets any interaction is I ask people like, hey, who's watching, or who liked this latest episode, or what would you like to see? And no one answers. But I think one time I did send out a thing and I got a couple of responses from my immediate network. So I learned a little bit about who watches it. But as you said, it's difficult to know in the early stages. And, you know, even as I say, like 40 episodes into a podcast, or close to 40 episodes in, I'm still figuring out my audience. And you know, like, as you say, like every episode can do different numbers. Like I'm still kind of looking at some of the podcasts and some of the clips I've done, and I'm wondering like, well, what do people actually want to see more of? Like what should I be replicating? What should I be focusing on? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can really kind of look at is the fact that, you know, when I have certain guests on, it gets more views because they've got a bigger following. So I guess that's something. But as far as like topics are concerned, it doesn't, you know, a lot of the time when you're looking at the analytics, that's the main thing that helps you understand what's being more responded to and what isn't. And like I've got friends that always tell me like, you got to focus on comments and stuff, but that's the thing, those comments aren't there, or else I would. Like I get occasional comments here and there once in a blue moon, but a lot of the time there's no comments, so there's nothing to kind of look at and say, okay.
I mean, a lot of times on my episodes, when I post them to YouTube, because I post to YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and again, like I said before, I'm not going to promise that they're going to still remain on those three platforms, because I thought just limit myself to one platform, because then I don't have to like waste like a quarter of my day trying to upload one episode to just all these platforms. I need to make sure this is uploaded to that one. Then
recommendation for you then, you want to get a platform distributor. I use Anchor, and that has enabled me to go on 8 different platforms.
I thought like
I
even thought about that. I know about Anchor. I might use that for my second season. I might just use Anchor and that's it. And
the more you know.
Yeah, exactly. But it's to the point that I don't know. Like, there's no comments. There's like barely any likes. Like me, I'll get like one occasionally on my YouTube videos. I get like one like each time on my Facebook because my mom, and thank God, she supports me in it. It's like, oh, your episode was great today. Thank you. That's it. That's like all the feedback I can get. And actually remembered, I have 3 consistent viewers or listeners that I know of. One's my mom, and then 2 of them are friends. One of them's a coworker of mine. He works at the same place. Not a cashier, but like, he still works in the same place. And he told me like I'm doing my job. He's like passing by to go to his department. It's like, I listen to your episodes while I study. Like, thank you. Like, that's it.
Wow. That's cool.
And I'm thinking like,
I have a friend actually. Shout out to Childish Jacko. I've done a lot of collabs with, and I did my previous podcast with actually as well. And he told me recently, or he told me before that he would listen to my vlogs and use them as like a mini podcast thing to listen to while he worked. But then he told me he started listening to the podcast, and I was like really taken back by that because he's a friend, and I was like, oh wow, okay,
like
cool.
when you get like the first time like someone says like, oh, I listened to your stuff, I really like it. It's like the first time good feedback. And I've had like the weirdest experience with like good feedback because it was like late at night. I don't remember how many episodes I had at the time, like very few. Done. I get a text on my phone from a number I don't know. I haven't saved it. It's just a number. It's just, oh, hi, I really like your podcast. Like, and they said my name, so they obviously knew me. Like, oh, hey, Chris, I really like your podcast. Like, I really like what you do. Your voice helps me sleep at night, which I found that kind of weird. It's like, so it's either I have a pretty calming voice, or my voice is extremely boring that puts people to sleep.
No,
You can take that any way, but apparently I've been told it's the compliment. It's like, yeah, but it's like, then I asked them, it's like, okay, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. I don't get a lot of it. Who are you? It's like, I'm not saying that. It's like, so then the following day, I posted on my Snapchat, okay, to anybody who has my number, who did you give it out to? One of my friends, she said, and she's like a sister to me. She's like my fourth sister. So, because I have 3 of them. And she's like my fourth one. And she said, oh, I gave it to this person who gave it out to the other person. It's like, okay, let me ask that person. It's like, give me her number. Same number. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, oh my god, she has me on Snapchat. This person, she has me on Snapchat, but still asked for my number to text me about it, and then proceeded not to tell me who she was. And by that point, I just blocked the number because this is kind of getting weird. I'm just gonna block it because she refused to tell me like, oh, it was her. Like by that point, if she would have said her name, it's like, okay, I would understand that. But then when he's like refused to tell me who you are, but at least I know you. And he's like, how'd you get my number? I have my connections. It's like, that doesn't make it any better. but still, like when you get like the first sense of feedback and just it makes you feel good that you know somebody's at least listening to it and somebody likes it. Because then again, I don't know like how I got 40 views on one episode. Like, what 40 people are listening? So I know of a few. Just what? But still,
you never know who's watching or listening. Okay, moving it forward. What are your main goals for your podcast? What are the main things you want to achieve with this?
Okay, main goals for my podcast: get it to a point where I'm happy about it. Like, I'll be honest, I'm happy about it. I'm proud of it. It's just that there's a lot of things I could change and a lot of things I could develop on. So work on those things and then probably switch it up and maybe add in some segments and change how I do things, like how change the format of it, and get it to a point where I don't stress myself over it and then trying to balance it with work and school and like relaxing and then, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this. So I want to get to a point where I'm like not super stressing over it, that I'm up at night worrying like I'm not uploading, I haven't recorded anything, I haven't planned anything. Like, I don't want to get to that point. I want to also like start pre-recording episodes, so I have episodes like saved up, so I don't have to worry about every week. I can just schedule them to upload when like weekly, bi-weekly. I even thought about like my schedule. Like I said, okay, 9 a.m. every Wednesday, and I was like, at first I'm like, okay, I can do this because at the time when I started this, I was unemployed. I didn't have a job. I was in night school, so I had time to focus on it. And then when I got a job and then got more schoolwork and then a whole bunch of shit, I'm thinking, should I just do this every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Because there's no problem with that at all. It's just less frequent, I understand. But yeah, like that's like one of my main goals. Just to get it to a point where I'm not like stressing over it for days on end. And I'm not like pulling my hair out. Like, yeah, because I can't even pull my hair out anymore. Just, and I don't even want to pull my hair out. It just happens.
So, what would you say have been sort of the biggest challenges for creating your podcast so far?
for creating it, biggest challenge was when I did the first episode. I had to record solo, I'd say, and that was my third episode because I had guests scheduled. I had someone scheduled with an interesting topic, and like, okay, that sounded really well, and I felt like she was going to ask more questions than I was because she seemed to know more about it than I did, and I do try to do research. And when it came to that episode, I'm waiting for it's like, okay, when are you available to record? Because I went out earlier that day,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay. It's like I texted when I got home back, like, oh, okay, are you ready to record now? Because I was ready to go. And it's like, oh shit, that's today. Hold on, and she never texted me back. Never. It's
Yeah.
like, and then I'm like sitting down. It's like a few hours later. So it's like, so I said, fuck it, I'm doing it solo, and then I spent a good 40 minutes trying to say, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do solo?
Mm.
And it came to a point where I just ended up talking for about 4 minutes, and that was the entire episode. It got to the point where like, I was stressed, I didn't know what to do, and then I think from that point it got me used to like talking in like solo episodes when I do it. And I haven't done one in a while. I'd say I think my 10th episode was the last time I did a solo episode. So it's like, yeah, if I have a good topic about it, I can talk just by myself and entertain myself. Sounds wrong when I say entertain myself, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I do it as well, because I think originally I had this thought in my mind of, okay, this is just going to be an interview podcast. And then I kind of realized like how difficult it is to continuously find new guests or even repeat guests. And that puts pressure on you. And if you want to keep your podcast going, you know, you can't always rely on other people. So what then? You have to rely on yourself and coming up with stuff. And it's exactly why I do solo podcast as well. It's not just for the variety point I mentioned earlier. It's predominantly because of this very issue, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had the same thing. I've had, you know, guests lined up and it fell through for whatever reason, you know, because the problem is, you know, you have your own schedule and you're relying on people kind of matching it to your schedule, and you know, things change, things happen. I'd say 90% of the time for me, I've been able to reschedule with people, but there have been times when it's fallen through and you just never hear anything back, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay. And then my thing is that I don't chase people, you know, like I say, hey, would you like this? If they agree to it, I set the time, make it happen. But if they're kind of like, you know, dilly and dallying and not really doing anything, and I'm, you know, like I've had times when I've, you know, had the podcast ready, I'm waiting, and then they just never show up. And I'm like, okay. And then they never get back to me with regards to that. And I'm like, okay. Because the thing is, I can fully accept that people, you know, things happen, things change, you know, shit happens, right?
Yeah.
But when people don't have the decency to get back to you on that and sort of clarify why, and they essentially just ghost you, you're like, okay, right on. But you have to be professional about it, and you
Yeah.
have to think ahead, and because it's your thing, so you got to be like, okay, well, I can't rely on this guest, so as you say, I've got to come up with something for myself, or you know, whatever. But I think if anything, it's a good way of pushing yourself, and as you said, like practicing just talking about a topic at a length. You know, like often, funnily enough, I approach my solo episodes the same way I approach my interviews. I just write down all these things I'm going to talk about, like bullet points, and sort of just go from A to B or A to Z, and just try and work through and create something out of that. Because the first time I remember trying to do those podcasts where I just pick a topic and then just talk at length, and that's fine if you're doing a vlog or like a mini story, but if you're doing a podcast, you know, you need structure. You need a flow. Even with these interviews, you know, people sometimes think that, oh, it's really easy, you just sit and ask questions, but it's not. You've got to craft something that's logical. You've got to, you know, do it in such a way that it promotes whatever that person wants to promote. And gets the best of them, you know, and really, you know, takes into account everything about that person that there is to kind of to talk about and discuss.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always, you know, sort of learned from my guests is that they're always kind of, I say, impressed with that the research is done. But I can't imagine not doing that. Like I mean, you don't have to necessarily have research about the person, but if you don't at least have like, your questions,
some sort of information on them. Like if you don't like
yeah,
have something to go off of, then it's like, what the hell am I doing?
yeah, absolutely. Or even just like some things that you're prepared that you want to talk to this person about. Like if you're just coming at it like I've had times when, the other person, like I've appeared on other people's podcasts and they've kind of expected me to, guide it, and I'm like, well, it's your podcast. I mean, I'll talk happily if you just want me to talk. I'll talk. I'll make
Yeah.
it fun. But like, I think it's always up to the person hosting the podcast to like guide it and guide you. I always say beforehand if I'm appearing on someone's show, like, do I need some research? Do I need to be prepared? And if they say yeah, I'm like, okay. If they say no, I'm like, okay, well then it's up to you. So I don't know, but yeah, I think that's a key point, isn't it, for all podcasts? Is just to have some structure, plan it out, because it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's switch it up and let's do a more positive thing, positive question. What have been, other than the episode that you had that got the higher amount of views, what would you say have been sort of the biggest triumphs for your podcast so far?
I'll be honest, I don't think I have any big triumphs for it. It's like I have like the like better episodes that I think like, oh, I prefer this episode over this episode, because you have episodes that like, okay, I like this one more than this one. I like how it was done, whatever.
Yeah.
Like formatted, but you're like never gonna choose like a favorite. I mean, I don't have a favorite episodes I've done. You're not gonna choose a favorite. It's like I'm proud of.
They're all great.
I'm proud of everything, just some less than like just. I'm proud of all of them, just all in different amounts. Like that's the thing, because triumph for my podcast was probably just. I think how accepting people were. It's like, oh, okay, I'll probably give it a listen, and then it's like, seems interesting. Okay, why not? I think that'll be it, because I don't really have like a really big moment in my podcast yet. Hopefully someday, sometime, hopefully.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Outside of podcasting, do you have any sort of like hobbies or interests that you're particularly fond of, or paint us a picture of Christopher James?
Painting, I could paint. Like I can literally paint. I do like drawing and stuff. Like I'm kind of artistic. Like I'm creative. I've been told. It's like I do draw sometimes. I think I have my sketchbook somewhere here. I have my sketchbook over there.
Nice.
That's been kind of mostly empty, but that's a sketchbook. I don't need to focus on that. So like every once in a while I'll like draw or something. Like, and that's really drawing is just, I've always been like kind of talented at art. I remember when I was in school, I never failed anything in art. I basically got like 90s a lot. And then like every occasional when it came to like doing a mosaic, 70s, because I don't like mosaics. Other than like drawing and stuff, I do like solving Rubik's cubes.
Oh, cool.
Because I taught myself. I watched the video on how to do it back when I was in 6th grade. That's when I got my first Rubik's cube. And then from there, now, flashback to like 7 years later. I'm at that point. 7, 6. I don't remember how old I was when I started this. Either I was 10 or 11. Yeah. And I mean, it was interesting because I do like puzzles at that point and trying to get something be complete. I'm looking around my room to see if I have a Rubik's Cube right now. I do in the back. I'm just not going to get it right now. Actually, wait. I have this right here. Let me get this real quick. This.
Holy crap.
So this is 11 centimeters by 11 centimeters. It's a light, and the battery's dead. So I can't turn it on. But it also fully works. Rubik's Cube, and I've solved this before. It is a pain to solve because my hands are not that big. I can fully turn everything, and my hands are pretty big. Like the wingspan of my hand, I'm using wingspan of my hand is like 8.5 inches, wow. And I can like barely fit my hand on this thing.
I've never seen that before. That's the first to me. A Rubik's Cube Lite that actually works.
I have the world's smallest Rubik's Cube down there. I have a 5x5, I have a 2x2 somewhere. Probably downstairs, I have a 3x3.
Wow.
But it gets to the point, I'm going to put this on the floor because I have nowhere else to put it. I got to the point that even when I was like starting college and I tried to get like into like as much of my college offered, so I want to be involved because I was in student council when I was in high school and I really enjoyed it, getting involved in my school. And so my college did something called like a Got Talent Week, which I think it's over now because it was this previous week. And so I sent in a video of myself solving a 2x2 Rubik's Cube blindfolded.
Nice one.
And because they made a post on their Instagram, we need a Rubik's Cube wizard. I messaged them back saying, I don't consider myself a wizard. I just know how to solve one. It's like, what's your best time? It's like, my best time for a 3x3 is a minute. It's like, and that's not fast? No. Honestly, that's not even fast because you have people who do 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure somebody did in like, less than 4 seconds is the record.
Less than 4 seconds?
Either like 4 seconds. I think I like, hold on. I'm going to look this up right now. Hold on.
How?
People are fast. Hold on. 3x3 Rubik's Cube world record. 4.22 seconds. Or 3.475.
That's mind-blowing.
So yeah, you can basically less than 5 seconds solve one if you're good enough. And they're like, but that's not fast. It's like, no, I don't consider that fast. I just know how to do it fast to a point where it's a minute. And my best time for a 2x2 was like, now my best time for 2x2 after doing that video was like 30 seconds blindfolded.
Oh, well done. Good on you.
5x5 would be like a few minutes because that's a lot more turning. And other than those two hobbies, I do sing, I do rap. Not well, but I do it for fun. Just I can sing in 6 languages because I taught myself how to do that.
Oh,
I
wow.
can rap in 1 language. I can only rap in English because rapping in any other language is probably going to be a lot more difficult.
Do you think you'll incorporate these things into your podcast in the future? Maybe you like...
I've thought about it, but also working out like, what am I going to do with it? I mean, how am I going to involve it? But yeah, like singing is actually pretty fun, even though I think I suck at it. I do it because it's fun. Like when I like before I start recording an episode, I'll like sing a few songs. I'll do like some of that like before like my class, and I do that a lot. That like before I'm like waiting for my class to start, I'll sing. I'll sing some in like English, French, Spanish, mainly. I haven't sung in Italian in a while. Same thing with Romanian.
Cool.
Portuguese often, sometimes. Yeah.
Nice.
And then rapping for me is just because I do talk fast normally. And it's got to the point that people don't understand what I say sometimes because I can say it in one breath. Up to points, it's just, yeah, okay. Rapping is kind of decent. That's pretty much it.
Thanks for sharing, man. As we draw it all to a close today, do you have any kind of upcoming messages that you'd like to sort of deliver to your fan base, or, you know, maybe people that listen to this podcast, or maybe just like final thoughts that you would like to share with us? Maybe like some upcoming projects you're working on or something, or maybe upcoming topics.
Upcoming topics. I don't really have that many upcoming topics so far because I have a little notebook right here full of them, and I haven't looked in here for a while, so I have no idea what's in here. I might be incorporating like a different format. I'm probably going to record an episode sometime soon, hopefully soon, if I actually have the time to like give a bit of an update on my podcast, like the future of it. Hopefully soon I can upload my 13th episode of my podcast starring Christian, because we recorded it and I've still yet to upload it. It's going to be a really late Halloween special, but it's a Halloween special nonetheless.
I've always considered November as like second Halloween anyway.
Look, here's the Nightmare Before Christmas is the November of movies.
Yeah.
Because it's both Halloween and Christmas. It's the November of movies. Because now November is now a movie genre.
Fair enough, yeah.
So now movie genre. Like, well, what's the genre of this movie? November. It's like, what? It's both Halloween and Christmas. It's like, November. Nice.
It's like Hovis, best of both.
Hovis Hovis sounds wrong.
So do you not have Hovis bread in Canada? I guess.
Hovis bread? No, because I've never heard of it.
It's a type of bread manufacturer we have here, but there's a particular brand that I don't know if they still make it, but it was 50-50. So it's 50% white, 50% brown, hence 50-50, you know, and their slogan was best of both. And I always kind of found that a bit funny.
I mean, I've made bread before. Like, I like baking bread.
Wow.
I've made, like, the last time I made bread, I made chocolate babka bread.
Ooh.
And that took like 7 hours. Because you have to like wait for everything to, but it's worth it in the end. And it was a lot of mess because there's a lot of chocolate sauce. But it's damn good.
Man, you're making me hungry. Okay. Well, listen, thank you. You've been an awesome guest. I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed appearing on your podcast, and I recommend everyone go check that out. What is the name of your podcast? Shout it out now.
Curing Curiosity. If you can't understand it the first time, you'll will soon, because it's kind of a tongue twister.
Curing Curiosity. And
there
we
go.
I believe that's on Instagram. It's curing_curiosity. Yes. And it's the same if you type it into YouTube. You can find it quite easily.
And Facebook and Spotify, it's the same thing, just Curing Curiosity.
Yeah, so obviously look out for that. You'll hear me on his podcast, and he's a great interviewer. It was a lot of fun. Well, I say interview. It was kind of like a fun experience, fun discussion about Halloween and other related topics.
Yeah.
And, we obviously went into the weeds like we did today, but it's a lot of fun. And yeah, just in general, thank you for agreeing to be a guest on my podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem.
And a quick message to everyone listening to the Christian Reeve podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast. I hope that you're enjoying it. And, you know, I know I say this all the time, but, you know, I really do hope that you're enjoying it and that, you know, you're getting something from it. I know that there is more of a regular audience now, but make yourself known, you know, let me know what you think. Because as we've discussed throughout this podcast, I don't know all of you. I don't know what you like, what you don't like.
Just have this mystery fan base. It's like, there's people listening, but who?
It's good to know. I think it helps us podcasters grow and move forward. And yeah, let me know as well what you think of the video edition, because I can't remember when we introduced this. I think it was somewhere around the 12-13 mark. But I remember asking for people's feedback on that, and I don't remember getting it. But yeah, I think some people said that it was good because it helps to actually facilitate the actual conversation, because you can see who you're talking with, and that creates a better conversation. And I'd agree with that point. Yeah. But yeah, in general, let me know what you think of the podcast. Let me know if you're still enjoying it. Let me know what you'd like to hear in the future, or if there's anyone that you would like to see appear on the podcast in the future. Let me know. Send them my way. I would love to have them on the show. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, peace out, one love. I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.